Thank you, Emiliana. Greetings. It's a pleasure to join you in this timely and crucial discussion. Education of quality, adequately financed and accessible by all is key to sustainable development and the realization of all human rights. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres often speaks of his experiences as a teacher in the poorer neighborhoods of Lisbon in Portugal. He personally witnessed the transformational force of education in driving the eradication of poverty and the transmissions of skills that prove vital for individuals, their families, communities, and all of society. As Mr. Guterres has pointed out, I will quote him, investing in education is the most cost-effective way to drive economic development, improve skills and opportunities for young women and men, to unlock progress on all 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and to prevent conflict and sustain peace. Over the past decade, major progress has been made towards universal realization of the right to education, with increasing school enrollment rates at all levels, particularly for girls. In 2019, UNICEF reported that more than 90% of primary school-age children had been enrolled in school. Unfortunately, this progress was imperfect. Enrollment in school varied widely by region. The increase in enrollment was slowing, and not every school provided education of quality. In 2019, 617 million youth worldwide lacked basic math and literacy skills. Still, there were many precious hard-won gains. Then came COVID-19, the largest disruption of education systems in modern history. The pandemic has affected nearly 1.6 billion learners worldwide. Schools were closed in 160 countries, impacting 94% of the world's student population. Hundreds of millions of learners were sent home to attempt to follow improvised remote learning systems, often with inadequate access to digital tools. This could be the making of an educational, economic, and social catastrophe. UNICEF reported last month that at least 463 million, over 30%, of school children worldwide cannot be reached by digital and broadcast schooling. To take one example, in sub-Saharan Africa, only 64% of primary teachers and 50% of secondary teachers have received even minimum teacher training. And most often, this does not include basic digital skills. Even in developed economies, where there is largely adequate infrastructure and connectivity, many educators lack the basic digital skills, a shaky basis for facilitating quality distance learning. It will be vital to address the digital divides and connectivity gaps that this crisis has brought to our attention. And the urgent work of resolving these issues and other issues is a key argument for increasing or at least ring-fencing education budgets. Because what happens to a child when he's no longer attending school? We at the UN receive daily reports about the heightened risk of child rights violations linked to the pandemic. They include forced labor, child marriage and trafficking, including for sexual exploitation. They include increased report of domestic violence against children, follow-on impact on child nutrition, and some reports of increased recruitment in armed groups. Writing in The Lancet, UNICEF, FAO, WFP, and WHO have emphasized the disastrous impact of the pandemic on nutrition, particularly in low and middle-income countries. One recent study suggested that without timely action, the global prevalence of child wasting could rise by almost 15%. This would translate to an additional 6.7 million children under the age of 5 with wasting. From Afghanistan to Alaska, children are facing not only fewer hours in school, but the probability of less attentive and individualized education, higher risk of severe child rights violations, and the long-term impact on the future of all those trends. Furthermore, their families, mostly their mothers and older sisters, are having to pick up the responsibility for keeping these children safe and occupied, impacting their own ability to hold down decent jobs. The International Labour Organization has warned COVID-19 could wipe out the modest progress made on gender equality at work in recent decades. The importance of protecting the right to education could not be clearer. It makes every kind of economic and strategic sense for children, for countries to invest in quality education so that children and young people can fulfill their development potential, raise their voices to participate in decisions, and contribute to the economy and their society. Universal access to education of quality is the best investment we can make for a better world and a better future for humanity. It is the key to lifting communities and individuals out of poverty and engage them in sustainable and peaceful development. We cannot allow COVID-19 to become the breaking point at which our imperfect but very valuable advances begin falling away. Yes, even before the pandemic, the challenge of education financing was already daunting. In early 2020, it was estimated that the financing gap to reach Sustainable Development Goal 4 on quality education in low and lower middle income countries was $148 billion per year. The COVID recession could create even greater disruption. To safeguard education and the future of our children and societies, governments will need to take hard budgetary decisions. And I cannot claim this will be easy, but we need to make the case that they should do so. And we need to help civil society make those governmental decisions visible and politically important. Measures to ensure continuity of learning and education for all, such as flexible teaching modalities, distance learning through low or no tech means, and food vouchers should be viewed as a core part of national COVID-19 stimulus packages, alongside initiatives to boost health, social protections, businesses, and jobs. I would like to make one last point. States need to be accountable in upholding the right to education, but they also need to be helped. We cannot accept that the post-COVID era will be one of heightened nationalism. When countries decide to go it alone, whether in terms of vaccine or human development, they're not helping to end any crisis. They're perpetuating crisis. If COVID-19 has taught us one lesson, it is the tremendous value of measures that uphold human rights universally. We have witnessed the ways in which deeply entrenched inequalities and human rights gaps fuel this virus, magnifying contagion and vastly accelerating the threat. What we need to see today is action to repair those gaps and heal those deep wounds, both in and between our societies. Poverty harms the poor, but it also harms the rich. The misery and injustice of inadequate schooling does not only harm the children sitting on rickety benches, it harms us all. So national authorities should certainly protect education financing by strengthening revenue mobilization, addressing inefficiency, and where possible, boosting spending. But the international community also needs to act to protect education financing worldwide by strengthening international coordination to address debt crisis and by protecting official development assistance for education. Strengthening the resilience of education systems will be key to our recovery and to our capacity to build on the lessons of the pandemic to build greener, smarter, more resilient and inclusive economies in a world that is safer and more fair for us all. So thank you for standing up for the human rights to education.